Hi, everybody. Back again at Memorial Auditorium in Buffalo. Ring announcer Manny White announcing the participants of this 2 out of 3 fall tag team event. I hope you can hear me. He is now introducing the very unpopular Miller brothers, Big Ed and Dan, from Columbus, Ohio. And at the upper right-hand corner of your screen, former NBA champion whipper Billy Watson and the current sensation Bobo Brazil. This is a tag teamer, best 2 out of 3 falls, and it should be a dandy. Tonight's program under the auspices of the Buffalo Wrestling Club, promoted by Pedro Martinez, Deputy Commissioner Joe Masters, and Inspector Brad Carestro, heading the New York State Athletic Commission, Julius Helfand, Commissioner. The third man in the ring is Joe Muscato. And the former heavyweight boxing contender is giving instructions to the wrestlers, especially with the Millers, who Joe figures, and probably rightly so, need him a little more. Well, it's going to be Brazil at the start, along with Ed Miller, 305 pounds. All right, a small consultation as Brazil waits. That Brazil weighs 275 pounds, hails out of East St. Louis, Illinois, and he's a lot of man. He beckons Ed Miller out, but Big Ed is a little reluctant to accept the bait. Another consultation. I don't know what they're consulting about. No one has done anything as yet. I'm not so sure about the grammar on that, but I guess you got the idea. Brazil would like to get in close. He isn't quite sure how to go about it. But I guarantee you one thing, once the action gets underway, it's going to be hot and heavy throughout. A large crowd on hand tonight, having a wonderful time. All right, Brazil. Brazil now in action. All right, you can see it better than I can describe it, and that's Big Ed Miller getting the brunt of it. He goes over. All right, the tag, and in comes Bill Miller, or Dan Miller, 255 pounds. And he offers the hand of friendship to Brazil, but Bobo ignores it. The Millers are reluctant. And who's to blame them? This Brazil is a powerful, powerful man. And in the event he gets in trouble or tires, whipper Billy Watson waits to take over. And at last they come to grips. It's an arm lock applied by Dan Miller. All right, let's see how Brazil escapes this if he can at all. All right, a slam. It's Bobo Brazil using brute strength. A forearm smash. And Dan Miller is poleaxed. Brazil aboard for the press. 1, 2. And Dan flips him onto Joe Muscato. He's trying to make the corner to tag brother Ed. He can't do it. Dan is thrown into the corner where whipper Watson awaits with a shoulder butt. 1, 2, and again he's flipped over. And you can see the cooperation between Brazil and whipper Bill Watson, one of the best in the game today. There's a pile driver. Oh, my head, my aching head. Dan Miller in trouble. There it is again. Oh, I can feel that out here. Dan Miller in the corner. Does not complete the tag, but Ed Miller's in business anyway, and they've got Brazil hamstrung on the ropes. Joe Muscato orders a break. A difficult situation for Brazil. All right. Now, if you'll note closely, a rope strangle applied by Big Ed Miller. Now Dan comes over to get in his links. And Bobo Brazil is having difficulty breathing. There it is again. As Joe Muscato turns his back, Ed Miller applies the rope strangle. Now he's threatening Muscato. That would be a mistake, because Sergeant Joe is a one-punch takeout artist still. There's the count. The action transpiring in the Miller's corner, and Bobo Brazil on the receiving end. All right, crawls through the referee, tags Watson. Here comes the whip. All right, he's got Dan Miller in plenty of trouble. Monkey flips and out of the ring, and now he goes to work on Big Ed. And Big Ed is inside the ring without being tagged, but not for long. Here he comes right out. Whipper Watson with an arm stretch. Ed Miller tied up in the ropes. And Dan Miller has lost all interest in the proceedings. He's not at all interested in helping his brother, and who can blame him? He took a hefty 10 seconds worth of beating there. Muscato counting the Miller brothers out. Here's the whipper. Back to work on Big Ed, after throwing Dan back on the apron. And here comes Ed, and he and brother Dan are locked in an embrace, and onto the floor they go. And the crowd loves it. Listen to that crowd. Muscato counts the Millers, and Dan Miller is in trouble. Now they're slowly climbing to their feet, up the stairs and back in. The count is 5, 6. Whoa! Watson uses the rope, and over is flipped Dan Miller. Into the corner, met by a headbutt, the Cocoa Butt. Brazil putting the Cocoa Butt illegally because he's not in action. Look at Watson. Listen to this crowd. Ed and Dan Miller are working each other over. Dan is so groggy, he doesn't know where he is. And here comes Watson working Dan Miller over as Ed crawls for the ropes. Frankly, I don't know, friends, who is supposed to be in the ring for the Miller brothers. Dan is tied up tighter than a 5-year-old shoelace at the moment. Big Ed trying to get him loose. And the crowd loves it. Whipper Watson on the offensive once again. And now they've got Ed and Dan shackled in those ropes. And Brazil is compounding the felony on the far side by standing on the lower strand and making it impossible for Joe Muscato to release Dan Miller. Well, that's the rack. Oh, no. Well, Dan's loose, but he might just as well be hung up. Whipper Bill Watson, former British Empire champion, has taken complete charge. Dan tags brother Ed, and Big Ed helps the younger Miller out. before going into action himself. Whipper ducks, and you can see what happens. They conked heads all right, and Dan Miller is raging at the crowd, at his brother, and at Whipper Watson. This is 2 out of 3 falls. All right, now the tide of battle has turned. Whipper Watson in the corner is getting the full treatment from Big Ed Miller, abetted by Brother Dan, illegally so, and that one missed Watson, but it didn't miss Dan. Brazil is in the ring. He's thrown out. Dan grabs Watson by the hair. Big Ed Miller escapes, puts the arm stretch on and a kick to the chest. Now the rope strangle again. Whipper Watson now on the receiving end. Dan Miller with a stranglehold from outside the ring. They've got the rope around Watson's neck again. That's the tag rope. Theoretically, the wrestler who is outside the ring is supposed to maintain a hold on that rope at all times, but he is not to use it to that type of advantage. Bobo Brazil is going crazy in the other corner to get at the Millers. Muscato tells him to stay out, and in the meantime, Watson is being slowly strangled to death by Dan Miller. Watson's face is beat red. And now a hand strangle by Ed. Muscato has got the rope around Dan. And Dan seeks justice from the crowd. He's got about as much chance of getting it as I've got of getting off this show without a hoarse voice. Whipper Watson taking a brutal battering from the brothers Miller, Ed, and Dan. First Dan and now Ed. And that's a strangle, pure and simple. Muscato orders a break. Finally gets it. Goes out to the center of the ring with Dan. Here comes Brazil. Dan Miller is working on Watson. The house is in an uproar. Whipper Bill Watson on the receiving end. There is the famous Muscato right hand to Ed Miller's chin. In the meantime, Dan has got the strangle on Watson. And Whipper is in deep trouble. Any resemblance on the part of the Millers to legitimate wrestling is strictly coincidental. They're rough, tough, mean, and nasty. Whipper Bill Watson is bearing the complete front. Bobo Brazil on the far side of the ring, a look of anguish on his face. He's hoping desperately to get in. But Watson can't get over there to complete the tag. Here's the backbreaker, applied by Big Ed Miller. The backbreaker by the Millers. Now they'll probably switch. Here comes Dan. Whipper Watson in the throes of the Millers' famous finishing hold, the backbreaker. They're trying to switch. Now Dan has got him. Muscato is asking Watson, how about it? Have you had enough? Whipper says no, so here goes more of the same. Big Ed is in there now to apply the coup de grace if he can. Watson will not concede. Now he does. Now he does. Now he does. All right, Big Ed drops him like a sack of meal. And the winner of the first fall, the famous finishing backbreaker, the Miller brothers, Dan and Ed. right, coming out for the second fall, this best 2 out of 3 affair. Bobo Brazil for the team of Watson and Brazil. Big Ed Miller for the team of Ed and Brother Dan. The Millers won the first fall with a backbreaker, and it was Whipper Watson on the receiving end. Now Watson is out in the center of the ring, and he'll be opposed by Ed Miller when they get underway. The time of the first ball was 13 minutes and 9 seconds. Well, this ball is a little slow to get started action-wise, but so too was the first ball. But once they started, they never let up. And this crowd here at Memorial Auditorium in Buffalo was in a continual uproar. All right, a tag by Watson. Brazil is in against Ed Miller, and Ed is unhappy. Here comes Dan along the ropes as Ed is flipped by Bobo, and Bobo is mad. And Miller heads for the rhubarb out of the ring. Dan Miller was contemplating a sneak attack, but did not carry it out. Brazil implores referee Joe Muscato to make Miller get in there and wrestle. Oh, Miller wants to get Brazil over into the corner where not only he but Brother Dan can go to work on him. Bobo isn't having any. All right, we come to grips with a test of strength. Bobo Brazil down on one knee. Big Ed Miller, 305 pounds. And tremendously strong. He's applying pressure. Now Bobo exerts in return. And what do you know? He's outdoing Miller at his own game. And it takes a kick in the chest to get Miller free. Miller wants to get Bobo in the corner, but Bobo isn't having any. Whoa! Murder. There's the press. 1, 2. Oh, and Dan Miller sneaked along the ropes to pull Brazil off his brother before Muscato could count 3. Big Ed claims he's being strangled. You can see as he points to his neck. Muscato agrees and orders a break. Again, Brazil and Muscato rules the strangle. Tells Bobo to break, and he does. Whipper Watson in the corner exhorting his partner to go get him. Bobo does that, but he's met with a right hand and a kick to the chin. Retaliates with a right hand. Flying mare. Head scissors, and it may be a strangle. Far side of the ring, it is a strangle. The break ordered by Joe Muscato. A momentary one at that. Brazil back in business. Ordered to break again. Muscato counting. Well, you can see Bobo's reluctant. He breaks, but only momentarily. Then reapplies the same hold. Thus far in the second fall, it's been Ed Miller exclusively for the Miller brothers in this tag team event. Whipper was in for a few moments, Whipper Watson. Brazil took over and has been in ever since for the team of Watson and Bobo Brazil. Brazil reaches out. Watson completes the tag. Big Ed Miller heads for the corner. Watson falls into the trap. Here we go again. Watson in a strangle applied, or a Nelson, an illegal Nelson applied by Dan Miller. It's illegal, but that doesn't make Whipper feel any better. Oh! Watson ducked, and there's Dan on the apron. Watson flings Ed Miller into Brazil, who meets him with a butt, then his famous Coco butt. Again, another Coco butt. This could be it. Watson. Ed Miller on the receiving end of those Coco butts by Brazil. Another one. Oh, and on his back goes Miller. He flops on his stomach. Tries to get up. Scrambles for the ropes, and Whipper Watson applies a headlock. The partial strangle, and the break is ordered by Joe Muscato. Big Ed Miller in trouble. Here we go again. Oh! A neck twist and a monkey flip. This is guaranteed to tear your head right off your shoulders. There's Watson riding piggyback and applying what looks to be a strangle. You'll note that the forearm is under the chin, but Muscato says no. Here's Watson rocking Big Ed Miller into dreamland. Miller is out like a light. Watson, the winner. The team of Bobo Brazil, Whipper, Bill Watson, win the second fall over Big Ed Miller and Dan Miller, the brother combination from Columbus, Ohio. And now Watson is applying the same treatment to Dan Miller, although the fall is officially called by Sergeant Joe Muscato, the referee. Well, it's going to take another one to decide it. Here comes ring announcer Manny White. Bobo Brazil just put a Coco butt, which is his favorite finishing hold on Dan Miller. And now Dan is in sweet dreamland. Well, I couldn't hear, but I think Manny White said 5 minutes and 10 seconds, the time of the fall. Whipper Billy Watson and Bobo Brazil over the Miller brothers, Dan and Ed, and that squares the match at a fall apiece. Big Ed was as limp as a rag doll at the end of that fall when Joe Muscato called it. You probably noted referee Joe Muscato lifted Ed Miller's arm to see the state of his response. There was absolutely no response. He was out like the proverbial light. Dan Miller protesting that what Watson was applying was a strangle or choke hold. Muscato says absolutely not. Nothing illegal about it, fellas. And there's the bell for the third and deciding fall. Third and deciding fall. Whipper Watson in for Brazil and Watson against Dan Miller. And the Whipper is out to finish it in a hurry if he can. But Dan Miller, off the ropes, is now applying a headlock along with a hair pull, now a flip. And he's got Watson in trouble. Whipper comes out of it with a forearm smashed to the chin. He ducks. Dan into the corner, receiving end of the Coco butt. 1, 2, 3, it's all over! It's all over! Whipper Watson and Bobo Brazil defeat the Miller brothers, Ed and Dan. The third fall coming in about 30 seconds.